Greetings, everyone. Michael Raso, Film Photography Podcast. I'm here with fellow podcaster Mat Marrash.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And super special guest star, Mr. Josh Steele. Hi, Josh.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here.
Josh is from Roberts Distributors. And for those of you who do not know, Roberts is correct me if I'm wrong, the North American distributor of Ilford products.
That is correct, amongst other things at this point, but we are the exclusive U.S. Ilford and Harmon distributors.
Right now, people are swooning, like, "Wah!" People are falling back in their chairs, like, ah!
Yes, I always make that joke to Mike Bain, the U.S. Ilford rep, that there are thousands of people gunning for the 3 jobs that exist distributing film in the U.S.
Yes.
True.
Yes. And we will tackle the Ilford topic on a future podcast. Roberts is also the distributor of many indie films, including Film Photography Project Film.
Yeah.
And
that's what we usually lead with, Mike.
And who better to talk it up than Mat Marrash, who before we started recording was like, hey, Mike, try that new Wolfman film. And he has some results. So, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the results and stuff, and then we'll have Josh come on and talk about how it's going with that particular film.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, so we've been talking back and forth, on and off the air about upcoming like FPP films. And when you told me, like, you even dropped the hint that this new film might be coming out in a size different from 35, and I was like, as long as it's not APS, I'm all for it. And then you said it was 120, and then like, yes, that's so awesome, because a lot of indie films, like, it's going to be in 35, but then like anything, it's anybody else's guess if there's going to be something else. So Wolfman coming out in 120 was awesome to hear. The fact that it's a really cool 100 speed film. I saw Trev Lee's results, over at the darkroom. He posted those awesome like scans and prints that he got from. I'm like, man, I need to get my hands on this. So he got his a few days before I got my package. And then Mike, you sent me a few rolls of the Wolfman 120 as well as some 35. I did divvy out the 35 amongst the folks at Midwest Photo, all our little beta testers in house there. They as soon as an FPP package arrives, they get all the stickers first, and then they ask about the film. So priorities. But I shot several rolls of the Wolfman 120. I loaded up in the trusty old Hassleblad, my film camera that started it all here, my 500C. I took it to this event that Lauren and I've been going to for the last few years now. It's called a sighthound lure coursing. So it's where dogs with long snoots, like greyhounds and whippets and borzois and stuff, they just chase like these little plastic bags on a lure around a course, and it kind of looks like a rabbit running along. But it's just a fun little time. I love long dogs like that. And I've been taking my Hassleblad with me every year. And what I loved about the Wolfman is the negatives are just like, the base it's like not too thin, but it's a really nice, clear, thin base on there, and makes scanning and printing super duper easy. And I wanted to share some of the results. I scanned them up last night. So let me see if I can get this rolling. So I brought them up in my little Lightroom catalog here. So you can see we got some doggos, some dogs with snoots. Those are borzois that are only like a couple months old. So they're enormous. They're already bigger than Zill. But the film is like super, super nice. This is, it's 100 speed, and I was shooting this like late morning, early afternoon. So what would be considered like harsh, nasty type lighting, but handles really, really well. I didn't even use my standard go-to like PyroCat HD developer. This is just HC 110 dilution B, quick and easy, 6 minutes, like the FPP little cheat sheet said. And I just love the range I'm able to get with it. There's just tons and tons of detail in there. The grain is really like, it's a traditional, grain film. There's a long snoot for you, Mike.
No kidding.
That's the long face. Yeah, they're like ridiculous, right? They're like alien dogs. Like they shouldn't exist. But yeah, super nice and clean kind of stuff. There's Lauren with a little whippet. So
these are good scans, Matt.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's just V700, throw them on there. I want to try and use another scanning method to see if I can eke out a little bit more detail from these. Okay. But so far from the V700, I really like what I'm getting. But yeah, like all this information is still in there, right? Like I've got this really bright highlight into the shadow. Like it's super,
not blown out.
No, no, it handled really well. So I think this film handles contrast very, very well, almost as well as I've gotten like FP4 to handle over the years. And that's saying something. This is a really strong contender for like an everyday bright lighting type film. But I think this is also be really good for the kind of freaking trees stuff that I like to do too, where I'm like going out super early and doing like, I haven't done any long exposures with it yet. I have a one roll to go, so I might test it out there. This is like some crazy, I did some super long backlighting kind of stuff. So, but yeah, look at this little guy, a little Podenko here. So cute little snoot. So yeah, I'm super happy with how the Wolfman turned out. Really sharp, 2016. Oh yeah, the one dog that didn't have a snoot there is this giant Saint Bernard. I watched one lady walk up to this dog, and she's so used. So like normally the dogs with really long snoots, they don't have any kind of slobber issues. So people just grab their face, no problem. And one lady who owned one of the long dogs, she goes right up to the Saint Bernard and puts her hand under there, and like it was like a Nickelodeon commercial. Like just this ooze just comes back off of her hand. It was so, yeah, it was fun. But then even in direct sun, you can retain so much information in there in the shadows and highlights. That's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. These dogs were bred to hunt lions, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just handled really, really well. I was super happy with how Wolfman handled. So I'm definitely gonna be shooting some more of it.
I had asked Josh, I had asked Matt when we were developing the concept of this. I was like, oh, wow, in 120, do you think it would go over with shooters? Because my fear was that 120 medium format shooters were of a more serious group, and they would take the concept and be like, meh.
Yeah, I think that's I do think it's a misconception. I hear it all the time now, like, well, your Delta 3200 and your Portra 400 and your Delta 100s. Those are the only SKUs that really matter for 120, because you're wedding and your fashion people and those kinds of people are the only ones shooting 120. But we've all been to the film fest. We've all been to the get-togethers, and I mean, anybody who starts in the last 10 years with a 35 millimeter camera and instantly gets it is going to end up shooting 120. It's just, you see, the first time you see that funky camera with two lenses and wonder what the heck is going on here, you got to try it. And
Yep.
then you see the 500C or a 645 and you're hooked. And so and I mean, that's my natural progression, but that means both what we're seeing in terms of retailers buying Wolfman and end users just looking at Instagram feeds is, of course, we're all game for trying anything that will be interesting in our 120 cameras now.
Yeah. What's it like on your side, Josh, like with retailers pitching it? Like, what kind of reaction do you get?
The first year that you pitch a monster themed film, you certainly, it might be fair to say that from your traditional photo specialty channel, you might get a little pushback. But these are the same, dealers that those that took our advice all of a sudden have realized they didn't just get a film that would be, something they can talk about for the month of October and put up on their Instagram and have fun with, but they actually have been buying it year round. And so,
yes, shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, it's right next to the Tri-X or the HP5 for some of these dealers at this point, which is awesome to see. And so those guys needed very little convincing to bring in Wolfman, especially when, like Matt said, it's a cool film in that there's not, obviously you've got T-Max, you've got FP4, you've got Delta ranges, but for even some of the nichier black and white films, it's kind of unique for what it is. It's easy to go outside and shoot with, and so everybody's ready to jump on board. I was just looking, we've had more than 25 dealers instantly bring it in. This is a little bit of an old look, so and they're all around the country, from the Midwest to the East and the West. I think in general, especially with the black and white films, and even stuff like your super low ISO color films, getting retailers to adapt and bring in these kinds of things, having Leslie and your work and Matt showing scans is a big piece of the puzzle, because if you're going to bring in a niche film that's funky and cool, you got to know that when it gets dropped off back at your store or it gets sent to the darkroom, that someone is not just going to get a picture, but a picture that they're happy with, and that they'll come back and buy it again. Otherwise, there's no reason for a retailer to be carrying it. No one's looking for, a simple flash in the pan novelty. So the nice thing about FPP is that even though you guys are finding and coming out with crazy emulsions, it's predictable and reliable. When you guys say, hey, here's a dev chart, the dev chart's going to work. And whether you're doing it at your house or sending it, back to your store or to the darkroom.
Right. The only thing better than having this chat is if we were all in Halloween costumes right now.
That is true.
Well, thanks very much, Josh, for having faith in the FPP and bringing that, the monster films in, as well as the other, oddball emulsions. And we'll continue to work hard here to, once we get to the point of offering it to people, that we could fully, of course, stand behind it. So when someone's not satisfied, that we troubleshoot it with a customer and be like, well, that happened with those images because, you opened your back of your camera midway through.
Yeah, that'll happen with any film, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. So great. Thumbs up, and happy Halloween, everybody.
Introducing Film Photography Project's newest monster film, Wolfman 35 and 120 black and white film.
What?
Film Photography Project's Wolfman film. It's howlingly good.
I'm all out of Dracula film. Not me. But I know where we can get some. Come on. Whoa! Come on. Company. The Dracula film is in here. Welcome. Wait! I have film.